And that's because we're in this moment because of the product we put on the floor. So we need to be able to continue to do that. And I know everybody's working really hard. There's a meeting tomorrow that's super important. And I truly do believe we're going to get something done here in the next couple of weeks. But like you said, I mean, there's a lot of boxes that we still need to check. We've added two new teams. I mean, there's going to be more players than ever. And then we have to get into free agency, then have a normal draft as well. So there's a lot of things left to do. But I really do feel confident that both sides are going to
pay attention to what just happened there. Caitlin Clark just went on national television and told everyone the WNBA is going to get a deal done. Not, I hope we get a deal. Not, we're working on it. She said she feels confident both sides are reaching an agreement in the next couple weeks. And if you think that's just another player being optimistic, you're missing why this matters so much right now.
The thing that she was saying. Because, by the way, there are some players who what they're saying means more when it comes to CBA negotiations than others. Absolutely. Stewie, Nneka, like Stewie, Nneka, Fee, what they say means more than what Caitlin Clark says. Duh. And by the way,
because here's the reality that most people don't understand about CBA negotiations. Not every player's voice carries the same weight. When you're sitting at a negotiating table and the league's biggest revenue driver goes on NBC and says, we're getting this done, that changes the entire dynamic. Stewie's on the executive committee. Nneka Ogwumike is literally leading these negotiations, but Caitlin Clark, she's the reason why there's suddenly real money to negotiate over in the first place.
Nneka Ogwumike, basically. And so the weird thing is, like, people have lumped her in with Fee, when in terms of her communication, she's way closer to Stewie. Like, Nneka Ogwumike is basically saying they're going to do whatever they can to have, like, they basically, she's implied they know there needs to be a season. And I think anyone smart knows there needs to be a season. Like, if there's no season, like, they're fucked. Anyone who with a brain knows they're fucked.
And notice what she's saying about Nneka's approach. The Players Union president is basically signaling they know they need a season to happen. They're not threatening to sit out. They're not playing hardball in public. Compare that to how some of these negotiations usually go in professional sports, where you get players leaking to the media about how far apart the sides are, building public pressure. That's not what's happening here. Nneka's been strategic, keeping things quiet, making sure everyone understands what's at stake. But here's where this gets complicated.
But the growth of the league has been so much. I mean, can you just help us to understand the transition this league is going on right now?
I mean, it's incredible. And I remember my first WNBA game when I was a young girl. I went to the Minnesota Lynx when they had their dynasty with Maya Moore, and they were playing the Seattle Storm. And now basically any arena you go to, it's sold out. We're adding 2 teams. We're up to 14 now, and then hopefully getting to 18 in the next couple years. So, you know, business is booming, and that's a really good thing. And we kind of just got to keep meeting the moment. The talent's getting better and better. You see it at the college level coming into the professional game.
The talent pipeline has completely transformed.
Go back to 2019, just 5 years ago, there wasn't a single rookie who made the All-Star team that year. Not one. Ajel Wilson was the last rookie All-Star in 20. Before her, you have to go back to 2014, when Shiny Ogwumike somehow started the All-Star game despite coming off the bench and averaging 8.3 points per game.
That actually happened.
The league was so starved for marketable young talent that fan voting put a bench player in the starting lineup. Now look at the last 2 seasons. 5 rookies have been All-Stars. The 2024 class alone had Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark both selected. The quality of players entering this league has skyrocketed, and that's creating a completely different negotiating environment than anything the WNBA has dealt with before.
Anything in women's sports. And we've seen it with the NWSL. Like, the NWSL nearly lost their biggest player because of what has happened right now. Because, let's be real, like, I wonder what would happen to the WNBA if, hypothetically, Project B offered Caitlin Clark $15 million to not play in the WNBA, which is basically the Trinity Rodman situation. Their max salary was $350K, but they're paying Trinity Rodman $2 million because she was offered $2 million to go play in Europe. So I wonder what would happen.
And this is where the Trinity Rodman comparison becomes crucial. The NWSL was about to lose their biggest star because she got a $2 million offer to play in Europe. Their max salary at the time was $350,000. So what did they do? They tore up their entire salary cap structure, threw out the CBA restrictions, made a special exception just to keep her. It didn't change anything for the other players in that league. It was purely about preventing one person from leaving. So the question everyone should be asking is what happens if someone offers Caitlin Clark $15 million to skip a WNBA season? What if it's a 3-on-3 league or an overseas opportunity or some new venture that wants her as the centerpiece? Does the WNBA have a Trinity Rodman contingency plan?
Yeah, I think have done a really bad job on. They have hitched their wagon to the people that support women's sports for the sake of it. Not people that are legitimate fans of sports, that see the product that's going on in the WNBA, in college basketball, whether it being unrivaled in any other sport, and became actually interested in it. Like we saw an uptake with like the Lionesses in England, English women's football. Even if you see it like the Barcelona women's team, when they're selling out El Clasico, you're seeing just a natural.
Because here's what's really happening with these unrivaled players. They've got their separate league, they're making good money there, they have security that most WNBA players don't have. And when Caitlin comes out and says she's confident a deal gets done, she's speaking from that same position of security. She doesn't need the WNBA the way a player fighting for a roster spot needs it. She's got endorsement deals worth tens of millions. She could sit out a season and probably make more money than she would playing. But what about the other 150 players in the league who aren't in unrivaled? What about the players who don't have massive shoe deals or their own signature basketball? The ones who actually need to play overseas during the WNBA offseason, just to make a livable wage. When Caitlin says we're good, we'll get this done, is she speaking for them, or is she speaking from a position of privilege that most of her peers don't share? And this brings us to the fundamental tension that's been building in the WNBA for the past 2 years. The league has made a choice about which fans they're prioritizing, and it's creating a problem that's signed to get worse before it gets better. Look at who's been driving the actual growth. It's not the people who've been performatively supporting women's sports for years while never actually watching games. It's real basketball fans who got interested because of compelling storylines, better talent, and players they genuinely want to follow. These are people who'll stay up until midnight Eastern when their team is on a West Coast road trip. They're the ones bringing their kids to games on Friday nights, buying jerseys, arguing about rotations and defensive schemes, but the WNBA keeps catering to a different audience entirely. The fans who tweet about respecting women's sports but can't name 5 players outside of the all-star starters. The ones who show up for one unrivaled game and act like they've been supporting the league for decades. They're loud on social media, but they're not the ones filling arenas for Tuesday night games in June when the team is 4 games under 500. This matters for CBA negotiations because the league needs to understand where their actual revenue is coming from. If you're building your business model around casual fans who only show up for marquee change-ups, you're going to struggle to justify the kind of salary increases players are asking for. But if you're cultivating the kind of dedicated fan base that the NBA has, where people have League Pass subscriptions and watch every game their team plays, then suddenly you've got sustainable revenue growth that supports real investment in player salaries. The college game figured this out. They're attracting genuine sports fans who get invested in the drama, the competition, the season-long narratives. Those fans are transitioning to the WNBA because players like Caitlin Clark are giving them a reason to care. But once they get here, the league seems more interested in appeasing the old guard of supporters rather than embracing this new, larger, more engaged audience. And that disconnect is going to affect everything that happens in these negotiations. Because if the WNBA thinks their growth is sustainable without catering to actual basketball fans, they're going to lowball the players on revenue sharing. But if they recognize that they're sitting on something real, something that could actually rival major professional sports leagues in terms of fan engagement, then these negotiations look completely different. Caitlin Clark saying she's confident a deal gets done matters because she represents that new audience. She's the bridge between casual fans and diehards. When she speaks, the people who just started watching the WNBA, and those are the fans who are going to determine whether this league's growth continues or whether it plateaus like it has so many times before. The meeting she mentioned is happening right now. Callers and owners sitting down to figure out how to split revenue that 2 years ago barely existed. The expansion to 14 teams is creating roster spots for more players than ever, which means more people fighting for a piece of the same pie unless that pie gets significantly bigger. The draft is scheduled for April 13th, but that can't happen until free agency happens. And free agency can't happen until there's a CBA in place. Everything is stacked up, waiting for this deal to get done. And the fact that Caitlin Clark went on national television to say, it's happening, that both sides are going to reach an agreement, that's not just optimism. That's someone who's been in conversations, who knows what's being discussed, telling the public that cooler heads are going to prevail. But here's what she's not saying. She's not talking about what the players are giving up to make this happen. She's not discussing whether the revenue split is actually fair or if the union is settling for less than they could get. She's not addressing whether the players outside of Unrivaled are being adequately represented in these negotiations. She's just saying it's getting done. And maybe that's all that matters right now. Maybe preventing a work stoppage, ensuring there's a 2025 season, keeping the momentum going is more important than holding out for the perfect deal. Because if there's no season, if fans who just discovered the WNBA in 2024 show up in May and there are no games to watch, you might lose them forever. That's the calculation happening behind closed doors. Do you push for everything you deserve and risk losing a season? Or do you take a good deal now, keep the growth trajectory going, and come back to the table in a few years when the league is even more valuable? Caitlin Clark just told us which way she thinks this is going. And given her position, given how much her voice matters to the future of this league, that might be the most important thing anyone said about these negotiations yet. So when she says she feels confident, when she says both sides are working hard and something's getting done in the next couple weeks, you better believe that's exactly what's going to happen. The question is whether it's the deal these players actually deserve or just the deal that keeps the league running for another few years.